Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you. I hope you guys are doing well during this pandemic. Wow. History. You guys are making history right now. Whoa, my chapstick. That's crazy. Okay, let's get started. First of all, I miss you. That's pretty obvious. And I hope that we get to go back to school soon. I hope that people stay at home so that we can go back to school soon. Having said that, remember you can contact me at any time through School Loop. Many of you guys follow me on Instagram. You can find me there and a lot of your other teachers at this time. And anything you need, I'm here for you. So if you're having problems with computer stuff still, or Wi-Fi, or if you're not able to get work that you want from other teachers, or whatever, you're just having a hard time, let me know and I can help you. A lot of times you just think of your English teacher as English and your history teacher as history, but whatever you guys need, I can help. Anything. Uh, okay. It may not be a help with quantum physics or finite math, but I will do my best. Okay. The other thing that I want to remind you of is that you should be trying to keep up on your work if you possibly can. It's not graded right now, and it's considered learning opportunities or enrichment, this work that we're giving you. However, these are things that people in college one day are going to expect you to know. So, you may not want to read Gatsby right now, and I get it. It can be hard to focus, especially with things like this going on. But it's also a good way to get out of your head and get into story and get into learning. And, I find that for me, when I'm out of routine, I need to create routine. And so, getting up at a specific time, doing things at a specific time. In high school, we all live by the bell. So I kind of have to make a bell for myself here. Okay, from 7 to 7:30, I'm going to do chores. From 7:30 to 8, I'm going to get breakfast ready. Those types of things. And that's kind of how I'm doing it. So you want to stay fresh with your work. I'm putting everything in School Loop. Of course, it's non-graded, but these are things that, when we get back to school, I'm going to go back to studying and we are going to do them eventually. So might as well do them now, while you have time to do it. Also, I want to remind you that, if this had happened in my day and age, when I was 16 at Millikan High School, I wouldn't have had anything. And, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I had to walk 20 miles uphill to get to school. Okay, I'm not trying to be like that. But remember, if the public libraries had closed back then, if the schools had closed back then, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet. We didn't have any way to still learn. You guys still have the entire world at your fingertips, which is really, really cool. I mean, you can go online and you can ask questions to NASA. You can go online and talk to specific astrophysicists. You can talk to doctors. You can listen to TED Talks. You can create music. You can still submit to writing contests, screenwriting contests, vocal contests. You can learn from all of the famous teachers, and so many people right now are doing things to help you guys learn and to be there for you. I was so excited. I know this is probably going to be silly, but I think you'll appreciate it too. But Dave Pilkey, Captain Underpants, he's going to do once a week. I think it's on Fridays, drawing class, online drawing class. And I just think that's really cool. So I think that's through the Library of Congress. I will put up that link for you. Also, I wanted to let you know, as I said before, I'm using School Loop right now because it's the easiest for you to access. If you've been doing Google Classroom and Zoom and those types of things, um, so many people are online. So many people are working from home that the systems keep crashing and it's like heavy traffic on a freeway. So I've just been kind of sticking here with you guys. I promise that I will set up a live opportunity. Maybe next week. We'll see how it goes. But I don't want to overwhelm you with that. But I would like to see you and I would like to be able to teach you. So having said that, I'm moving on. So one of the things that I want you to focus on as you're reading Gatsby is the colors, enchanted objects, the style of his writing. And I put up John Green's crash course. John Green wrote Fault in Our Stars and Looking for Alaska. And I'm sure you're familiar with his work. Anyways, he does a really good conversation on The Great Gatsby. I've put up part 1. And the first part, very intellectual conversation. He's super smart. I love to hear him talk and teach. He's also funny. But towards the end of part one, it talks about colors and it talks about enchanted objects. And remember, I told you before we left that Gatsby was the first book that I ever read that I really noticed the colors and that the colors were symbolic. Nick looking or picking pale gold flowers and the yellow cream colored car and all the gold that's represented and the green light, the elusive green light, cool blue jazz. It's so beautiful. And again, I know that if you're reading Gatsby right now, his style is, much more heady than what we saw with Salinger. And it's very intellectually lyrical. It's like beautiful song lyrics. You might have to look up some of the words. But once you get into the style of writing, I think you'll really appreciate his flow. It's so lovely. It is. I think Gatsby is my favorite classic, and I've said that before. So first off, I want you to make sure that you watch that and consider the colors in these chapters as you're learning the characters and you're learning the style of the book. The second thing that I wanted to bring up to you is something funny happened during this horrible pandemic tied to Fitzgerald. So Nick Farella, who's a writer, he's a writer for McSweeney's. McSweeney's is this really cool literary publication. They used to do like hard copy publications. Now they might just be completely online. And they have great essays and excerpts from memoir and excerpts from novels and stuff from, well-known writers. But they also do parody where they make fun, or they mock in a comic way to make, people enjoy something. And you guys are familiar with parody, if you've seen South Park, and of course, if you've seen Saturday Night Live, things like that. And parody is when somebody openly imitates somebody's style, in a funny way, in a comic way. And the other word that I want you to be familiar with is the word pastiche, which is similar to parody in the sense that it's an imitation of somebody's style. But when somebody does pastiche, it's also a celebration of that person's style. So parody, they all fall under the same category, okay? But parody is a little bit more openly mocking, whereas a pastiche is more celebratory of a person's style. I think parody, when somebody mocks you, it's the greatest form of flattery myself. Milliken memes, I love Milliken memes. And remember that when they tease us, when they tease the teachers, there's always a kernel of truth in the teasing. The Stephen, my favorite meme. So I just want you to be familiar with pastiche and parody. It could come up in English later on for you. Definitely parody. So there was this letter in McSweeney's written by Nick Farella, this writer, and it started getting passed around on the internet. And excerpts of it started getting passed around on the internet without his name on it. And it was it was a parody of him imitating Fitzgerald writing a letter to someone about Ernest Hemingway, another famous writer of that time period. Well, Hemingway and Fitzgerald were friends. And they were friends in a way that they joked and laughed and they had inside jokes and, they both were drinkers and they both, busted each other on stuff all of the time. And we know this because Fitzgerald was a letter writer. So we have all these great letters, and Hemingway was a letter writer too. So we have these letters back and forth that, kind of give us an idea of their relationship. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read a real excerpt of a letter from Hemingway to Fitzgerald. Okay. Now, Hemingway was a very manly man writer. He was very machismo. There's a lot of things I don't like about Hemingway as a person. Big game hunter, really into bullfighting, womanizer, those types of things, heavy drinker. I don't like any of that. But at the same time, those things, unfortunately make up his writing. And he's a great writer, and he has a specific style, and he's very firm, and he talks like very manly man. And the man came, he saw the bull was ahead of him, the bull was in front of him, the bull. It's very short and serious and very manly man, and he was a brave man, and he was a strong man. And yes, I'm openly mocking Hemingway right now. And then Fitzgerald is all beautiful and flowery. So here's a real letter. Here's a real letter between Hemingway and Fitzgerald. So this is Hemingway writing to Fitzgerald. I'd like to see you and talk about things with you sober. He's talking about Fitzgerald. You were so damned stinking in New York, we didn't get anywhere. You see, Beau, you're not a tragic character, neither am I. All we are is writers, and what we should do is write. Of all people on earth, you needed discipline in your work, and instead you marry someone who is jealous of your work, wants to compete with you, and ruins you. It's not as simple as that, and I thought Zelda was crazy the first time I met her, and you complicated it even more by being in love with her, and of course, you're a rummy. But you're no more of a rummy than Joyce is, and most good writers are. But Scott, good writers always come back. Always. You are twice as good now as you were at the time you think you were. So marvelous. You know I never thought so much of Gatsby at the time. You can write twice as well now as you ever could. All you need to do is write truly and not care about what the fate of it is. Go on and write. Okay. Now that's a real letter, okay? So we know that Fitzgerald was drinking, and because I think I talked to you about this before we left. Fitzgerald dies a tragic death related to alcoholism. Zelda is a mess in a lot of ways. His wife, and I think that was a hard time period for women to live in, and they were heavy drinkers. And I told you that she was in and out of mental institutions. But we can hear Hemingway's voice in that, and his close relationship that he's able to say these things to Fitzgerald. So that's a real letter. Okay, so let me close that. Now, remember I told you that Fitzgerald was a manly man, okay, and I want you to consider Fitzgerald's style in the Gatsby. This is Nick Farella parodying, okay, a letter Fitzgerald supposedly wrote, okay, about Hemingway. Here we go. And they're mocking the quarantine and the pandemic too. Not because he thinks it's particularly funny, but because in times like these, we need comic relief. All right. Now, I also want to bring your attention when you open this link and look at it yourself. When this first came out, it did not say on the piece, note, this is a work of parody and is not an actual letter written by Fitzgerald. But because so many people, posted it as real, which we see in social media, you have to be very, very careful about fake news. They had, McSweeney's had to put this note so people knew it was not a real letter. So you tell me if you think he captured Fitzgerald's style. I think he did. Dearest Rosemary, it was a limpid, dreary day, hung as in a basket from a single dull star. I thank you for your letter. Outside, I perceive what may be a collection of fallen leaves tussling against a trash can. It rings like jazz to my ears. The streets are that empty. It seems as though the bulk of the city has retreated to their quarters, rightfully so. At this time, it seems very poignant to avoid all public spaces, even the bars, as I told Hemingway. But to that, he punched me in the stomach, to which I asked if he had washed his hands. He hadn't. He is much the denier, that one. Okay, so if you've been reading Gatsby, you can hear how Nick nails Fitzgerald's style. And as I said, we have all of these letters between Fitzgerald and Hemingway, and Fitzgerald and Zelda, and Fitzgerald and friends, and other writers. So it's pretty cool. So remember that parody is imitating to mock for comic purposes, and pastiche is imitating to celebrate. I myself think this is both. I think it celebrates Fitzgerald's style, and I think it brings necessary comic relief at this time. Just remember that when you're on social media and that you're checking fact versus fiction, okay, you have to make sure that you check for reliable sources. And if you're not sure how to do that, make sure you find somebody you trust and have them help you check for reliable sources as well. Okay? I want you to have a great learning day. and you'll see all my links. I've also put a little clip to the IMDb movie database for a film about Lee Israel, who was a well-known literary forger that you might want to watch and get a kick out of. And if you need me, I'm here. Remember, our librarian is still online, and you can contact our librarian at any time. And I wish you all well. Take care, you guys. I'll see you again next week. Bye.